Morning, everybody. It's great to be here, and apologies I couldn't be with you in person today, but I hope you've all had an enjoyable morning so far. So I am the Vice Chair of the Defence and Security Board, and I'm really proud to have lived and worked in the region and working in that sector for over 10 years now myself. The region, as you all know, has a really proud aviation history, but what is probably less well known is that it has a role at the heart of the UK MOD's intelligence and surveillance operations, as well as being home to fast jet operations and also training as well. And that's through RAF Coningsby, RAF Cromwell, and of course RAF Waddington, amongst others. So I sit on the main LEP board as well, and over the last year we have established the Defence and Security Board to help develop and grow the defence sector in the region. Our first task, if you like, was to establish a defence and security network made up of companies in the area, so that's SMEs, primes, but also academia and local government as well. We want Greater Lincolnshire and this sector to be recognised for this cluster of innovative companies supporting the RAF and also our MOD customer. And we really want to put the message out there that there are great, well-paid jobs in the region in this sector, both technical engineering jobs, but also broader functional jobs as well, finance, project management, etc., that always support these industries. So it's a really great place for employees, but also for their families as well. As you all know, there are good schools, it's reasonably priced housing. So we think the area and the industry has huge benefits that we really want to put out there. There are also thousands of RAF and MOD personnel and service leavers as well. So there's a real community already established in the region around the industry. We really want this network to become recognised by DASA, the Defence and Security Accelerator, which you'll hear more about later on. And we want the region to become really recognised as a partner for innovation in this sector. So on that note, I'm going to hand over to my colleague Julian. So Julian is kindly going to chair the panel on my behalf, as it's probably a little bit difficult from this distance. So Julian is the chair of our Defence and Security Board and really the driving force behind the network that we've been setting up over the past few months. Julian himself had a distinguished career in the Army for 31 years. And left a few years ago to become Deputy Vice-Chancellor for the University of Lincoln. So, Julian, over to you.
Thank you, Alison. Just a couple of things. We were supposed to be a bigger panel, but we've lost one of our members today, who's Jim Pennycook, who's the MOD industrial partner with Defence and Security Accelerator, who are quite key to what we're trying to do in the sector. So I will try and make up that gap as well and explain a little bit about what DASA are and what they're doing and how we're working with them. As Alison said, and I spoke here this time last year about what we were doing, so I'll try and give you an update of how far we've got and the sort of next steps in the evolution of the cluster in defence and security that we're trying to set up across Greater Lincolnshire. So the board, as Alison has said, was convened, and the big purpose behind that board was to try and increase the level of investment coming into the region, specifically in the sector of defence and security. And there's, I think, listening to what was said earlier by some of the panel, quite interesting overlaps really in what we're trying to do. We're trying to bring into the region high-skill, high-tech, high-salaried jobs, in an aim really to try and boost the opportunities for people working and living in the region and to inspire and provide that sort of aspiration within the younger generation and try to make it more visible, i.e. the sector more visible. People can take fantastic jobs, long-term jobs in the sector, working through technology, trying to answer some really difficult questions which then bleed straight across actually into the net zero piece. Because if agriculture thinks it's got a problem with net zero, you want to look at defences. absolutely huge, with a massive challenge. It is 50% of the government's of carbon emissions, and the Air Force are about 70-75% of that. So that means for our region we've got a big problem to address, and we're working with the stations and the RAF around trying to solve some of those problems as well. So it doesn't mean that you have to be at the bomb-dropping end of things, and I say that because that is an issue for people. But actually a career in defence and security, and the security angle is said very deliberately, is a much wider spectrum. And as we see now, as we talk about energy security, food security and water security coming to a place near you soon, though we might not think it with the rain we've had here recently, are all issues that relate into the same sorts of things that we're trying to do across that sector. So that is the aim behind the thing, and we looked very hard at how we might try to generate the interest in what we're doing, and latched on really trying to create a network with the aim of having been announced in the industrial strategy, the defence industrial strategy, of creating a regional defence and security cluster. And having RAF Waddington and its whole intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance capability up there for defence, and indeed NATO, meant that we had something that was distinct, unique in the UK, around which we could wrap one, a label and use the ISR label, but also capabilities. And so we pulled people together to join the board who would look and be able to represent those areas. So the board, includes people like myself from the academic world, if you like, though I hasten to add, because my VC is out there, I am not an academic. We sort of bring that into what we're trying to do. We bring in some of the primes, and then we've got a good representation from the small and medium-sized enterprise businesses that are setting up in the region. So we've managed to pull that together. The aim then was to create a network as a stepping stone to creating this sort of nationally recognised cluster, if you like. So we have launched the network. We launched at the IBCC at the end of September, had a big event up there, 50 companies plus represented, where we explained what it was that we're trying to do, the whole area that we're covering, because although we talk about intelligence, reconnaissance and surveillance, which really means looking at airframes and sensors that go out right across the world and are operating right now, bringing back data, information. And actually the sector that we're trying to build is, yes, it looks at the sensors and everything that goes on, but it's what lies behind that. How do we get the data from the sensors together, create that into a format and something that someone can view to make a better decision and a quicker decision than someone else, and then challenge some of that data. Now, to do that, we've got to have all the data, technology and science that needs to align different data feeds, different data types, put them together. You've got to be able to visualize that. We all look at information in different ways and try to work out how to make a decision. So can we orient that and do that on a personalized level? We've got to communicate it, which brings in the whole secure communications. We've got to look at cyber, because other people are trying to get after that information as well, so it brings that in. And then we've got to really think hard about space, because most of this information transmits through space now in the way that we communicate the data. So it's quite a wide sector that we're looking at. And I haven't mentioned there UAVs and the like, of many of which are represented, or companies are represented on the board. So we're trying to pull that together. So that we had the event with 50 plus companies there. We're on our way to trying to get 50 people, 50 core members signed up to the network. We're about 20 at the moment, rising, so I'm still on the cell of trying to get people to join. What is it that we're offering? It is that opportunity for companies to get together, to start to understand some of the challenges that are there, to connect the companies, and particularly the SMEs, with the user community and with the MOD and the other security services, so that they can start to talk about the problems and challenges they're trying to overcome, which enables our companies who are innovating in some of these areas to then see, well, actually, I've got something that I can do, connect with that user, so we can develop a requirement, develop the technology. And that's really where DARSA come in, because DARSA are as a defense and security accelerator, have access to funds, and what they're trying to do is match innovation and capability that's taking place in small companies to challenges that the MOD and the other security services are facing, and then help resource the development of those through the technology readiness levels until we get to a point where they can be commercialized, sold into the ministry, or exported overseas into other areas. It also covers off the entire supply chain as well, so you don't necessarily need to be sitting out there thinking, I'm not a defense company, it's not for me. Lots of people are producing things which go into as component parts or have got other good ideas which can slicken up some of the processes that we need to do, because actually what we're trying to do is really drive fast decision making across the piece. So that link with DARSA is really important. Jim Pennycook, who would have been speaking today, would have been talking about their access to the user community, to the MOD, to the other security services, looking at the problems they've got and collating that and then starting to match that to capability that they're aware of. That's why the cluster is really important, because it starts to give DARSA, but also through then DSTL and others, sight of the things that we're doing in the region and that can be brought to good effect to answer the challenges that they've got. And therefore access the money as well to enable those companies to grow. So that's the journey we're on at the moment. And my aim is to try and hit at least 50 before Christmas, and then start the process of talking to DARSA about being formally recognised as a regional defence and security cluster by DARSA and the MOD, and therefore making things more visible for everybody. We're in the process as a group of creating a website so that people can then see the things that are coming down the line as well, because half of the problem for SMEs is not really having the headcount to dedicate someone to looking at the various portals, options that are being published in loads of different places to see what opportunity and funding are available and the challenges. So we want to pull that together, feed that through the website so that people have got one place to go to find out the opportunities that come in. The other thing that we're doing, obviously, is creating events. And one of the members of the board is Mark Lawrence Smith, Hughes, who is the station commander at Waddington. And so our membership now, if they wouldn't normally or aren't already contracted into work that is taking place up there, can now access, display, speak, connect to the user and to the primes who are represented at the RAF Waddington Industry Day. So there's an opportunity through the network to then try and get the SMEs closer to the user community, which is where really we need to be if we're going to try and exploit the innovation that's going on within the cluster. I think then the other things that we're trying to look for as well is around where we might also publicise what we're doing. And we've put together, the LEP have helped us put together a defence and security proposition. So it comes out in a glossy, but it's also a digital, digital feed that one can access as well. And we'll be taking that with us as we go down next autumn to the DSCI 23, which is the Defence and Security International Expo down at the Excel Centre. And we will go down there as sort of a Team Lincolnshire Defence grouping, and it'll enable our SMEs and our other members to display and have a site there, which we've already secured, funded by the LEP and the university, so that we can then start to attract more interest and try and explain to people why also investing and locating in Lincolnshire and being part of a cluster here is a good idea. And part of that is around exploiting the veteran community that we've got and the skills that are coming out of the military and into our community locally as well, so that we don't just try and grow our own, but we also try and hold some of the capability that comes into the county that is already qualified, understands their needs, and can translate that into the companies. So I'm going to finish there, and we've now got a few minutes each to talk about some of the things that are going on. The penalty for overrunning, Kate has devised, is it's sector specific. So anyone overruns, they're allotted 5 minutes, but I'm giving them 2 because we've dropped out one. We'll just get shot. So I'm going to first hand over to Chris Jones, who's the MD of, we'll go to Sally first. Sally Grimroyd-Smith, who's from the District Council, and is going to talk to us about some of the opportunities coming up at that level. Sally, sorry.
Thank you, Julian. Just trying to keep us on our toes, aren't you, this morning? So as we've heard from Julian this morning, the opportunity to grow the defence and security sector in Lincolnshire is significant. Our roots with air defence and security are deeply established and widely spread across our county. In West Lindsey alone, during the height of the World Wars, there were more than 15 active air bases that stretched across the countryside from Fiskerton to Foldingworth and Bardney to Blighton. The county's reputation for innovation, developing cutting-edge technologies and world-class training, coupled with stories of bravery, are written through our military and social history. RAF Scampton, perhaps one of the most well-known bomber airfields, was famously home to 617 Squadron, the Dambusters. It will be 80 years next year since that famous operation, Operation Chastise, which was masterminded by Wing Commander Guy Gibson and used the incredible technology of the bouncing bomb, developed by scientist Barnes Wallis. The Dambusters raid was a turning point in World War II. Guy Gibson was awarded the Victoria Cross for bravery for leading the mission, and RAF Scampton remains the only station in history to have 3 serving personnel awarded the Victoria Cross. From its pivotal role in World War II through to the station being at the cutting edge of operations during the Cold War, just one of many examples across Lincolnshire, we can understand how the narrative of the past informs our area's commitment to leading the agenda of research and innovation in the defence and security sector. The network of former defence estates across Lincolnshire continues to shape our business base. Given the stories of our past, it's easy to understand. Here in West Lindsey, where we are today, our cluster of explosive development and manufacturing, munitions research and testing, aerospace equipment manufacture and supply, and electronic detection and protection systems testing and training is growing every day. And we're leveraging the opportunities that we have of our wide open spaces, our well-connected location, our supportive communities, and a public sector that are well versed in planning to meet the defence needs both of county and country. Looking forward, and although tinged with sadness, the closure of RAF Scampton presents a once-in-a-generation opportunity to regenerate this strategically significant site. The emerging Central Lincolnshire Local Plan has created an opportunity area policy which seeks to provide a framework for the sustainable regeneration of the 480-hectare site. The policy is based upon delivering economic benefit to West Lindsey, to Lincolnshire and to the UK by developing the opportunities, as Julian has said, for high-level job creation, research and development, the provision of learning and skills, and sector growth, which makes the most of the assets of the site. The policy also seeks to maximise the opportunity to preserve and allow for the interpretation and the historic significance of the former airbase, including developing the site as a world-class visitor attraction. The policy then seeks to ensure that the significance of the restricted airspace and any future opportunity for commercial, defence, air, space and flying-related activities are considered as part of any future plans. As I've briefly set out today, Lincolnshire has a long-established relationship with defence and security. Our places provide the natural ingredients for success. Our people have innovation, courage and bravery in their DNA, and our communities are welcoming and hugely proud of their heritage. As we move into 2022, I'm confident that the public sector in Lincolnshire will continue to work together, as we've demonstrated today, with our communities and with our business stakeholders in the room to create an optimum environment for growth and investment in the defence and security sector. Thank you. I'll pass over.
So now it's Chris, MD from Metria Mission Data.
Good morning, everyone, and thanks very much, Julian, for the introduction, and thank you for inviting me onto the stage. It's not often that someone from one of the smaller companies gets to stand and speak to an audience like this. It's not often you hear enough from the smaller companies in our region, although Julian would tell you that he hears plenty from me through the work that we do on the Defence Security and Advisory Board. I just want to pick up on a couple of themes that Sally introduced. I'm going to make the pitch here for small businesses in the defence and security sector in Lincolnshire and why that's a great idea. And I think, Sally, you hit the nail on the head there with the heritage that the county and the region has around defence. It goes all the way back to the manufacturing of defence equipment, the First World War with the tank, through the aircraft manufacturing that started in that period, and then Lincolnshire as a county centred around aviation in the Second World War, known as Bomber County. And then you move into the Cold War period and where we are now, where our county, your county, is becoming the heart of data feeds into UK national security and how you turn information into intelligence. And the thing that sort of runs as a thread through all of that is a shared sort of sense of common purpose. And I think we've heard from energy and food that the thing that binds the clusters that we're trying to create in the county is that common purpose, whether it's sustainable, whether it's net zero, whether it's technology into food production. And Lincolnshire is a great place for defence because that common purpose runs through our DNA, as Sally said. For me, I'm the embodiment of somebody who came to work in the county in the Royal Air Force and 22 years later is still here trying to do business. And as a small businessman, it's a great place to work. And the success of the growth that Julian talks to as we try and encourage investment into the region is based around that idea of collaboration. And it is a theme that other people have picked up on this morning. Doing business in the defence sector as a small company is really quite tough. The barriers to entry, as you can imagine, when you're trying to work in national security are quite high. Whether that's security, whether that's the regulatory environment, whether it's the commercial heft and weight you need to provide the UK government with a robust and resilient set of products, services and solutions. It's tough to get into that area of work as a small company. So what small businesses need to do is to collaborate. And what we're trying to do in Lincolnshire is to enable that collaboration through the creation of the Regional Defence and Security Cluster. 50% of the £21 billion that the Ministry of Defence spends on equipment and support in the UK every year is spent through 19 strategic prime contractors. The MOD has a target of 25% of that spend going to SMEs. There's a big number there to get after, but SMEs have problems with access and scalability. How do you take that idea, that innovation that led to the tank in the First World War, that led to the jet engine in the Second World War, that has led to some of the innovation that is happening around RAF Waddington and the other bases in the area around the use of data to create intelligence from information? How do you take those ideas and scale them? How do SMEs get access to the growth opportunities that exist in defence? And the network we're trying to create will bring SMEs together with primes, where the relationship is driven not by the primes downwards, it's driven by the ideas that exist in small companies upwards, where relationships can occur between groups of SMEs, so encouraging smaller companies to work together to create that weight, to create that heft that you need to survive in the defence industry, to put smaller companies alongside the University of Lincoln and other academic institutions to create skills pipelines and partnerships that bring the growth of younger people into our sector on a sustainable basis, and then to take advantage of facilities that are available to defence companies through the great work done by places like the Lincoln Science and Innovation Park, whereby co-locating with other small companies who are in the same field or sector as you naturally create that instinctive creativity that leads to opportunities and growth. And Lincolnshire offers all of that. Collaboration with primes, small businesses working together, a relationship with the university to get after skills, and a science and innovation park that provides facilities and cooperation and collaboration. So, a case study for the company that I have run for the last 2.5 years, previously located on one of the outer industrial estates in Lincolnshire, next to a gym and a swimming pool and a Frankie and Benny's. You probably know where I'm talking about, those of you that are familiar with Lincoln. Opportunity to move onto the Science and Innovation Park. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you want to be somewhere where you can rub shoulders with other companies of a similar size and shape who are trying to bring technology into defence? Why wouldn't you want to take advantage of the grants that are available to small businesses through local government, through the university and the Science and Innovation Park? And then why wouldn't you want to use that to work with people like DASA, the Defence and Security Accelerator, as a front door into the investment that the government wants to make in our region around defence and security? So it's about collaboration, not competition. This is a great place for small businesses to do their work. The relationships are in place, and I look forward to working with you all over the coming years as we grow the defence sector in the region. Thank you.
So we've got a little bit of time for questions, probably a couple from the floor, if anyone would like to ask. And we've got a hand up over there.
Hello, thank you. It's Rosie Fieldson from University of Lincoln School of Architecture and Built Environment. It's a question for Sally, actually. So I'm really interested in how at a local authority level you might be able to target or cap operational and particularly embodied carbon impact for developments like what's proposed at Scampton.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a really good question, and one of the principles within the emerging local plan policy for the future of the RAF Scampton site is very much about sustainability and moving towards net zero carbon. The huge opportunity on the site of Scampton is to make reuse of some of the over 100 operational buildings, and that's really one of the driving factors for the real focus on heritage and sustainability on the site. Many of the buildings on the site have not been in operation for a significant amount of time, but actually there's a core of buildings that with the right concept and idea and regeneration could be brought back into use relatively quickly. And I think it's more than just the sustainable principle behind that. It's about ensuring that the site maintains its heritage, its shape, its form, its relationship with the landscape, its relationship with the assets that are listed on the site as well. So it's that whole piece around redeveloping and regenerating the site that's at the heart of that policy, and any future proposals will have to adhere to that.
Anyone else got a question out there at all? No? There is one question which I'm just going to pose to the panel, which is about how we better use the veterans within the community, because that's actually an unused resource. And I just wonder if, Chris, if you've got any views on that.
Thanks, Julian. I had the privilege of being the station commander at RAF Waddington in a previous existence. RAF Waddington is the most requested last tour of duty base across the whole of the Air Force. People want to retire from the Royal Air Force in this region for all sorts of cost of living factors, as well as the employment opportunities that come with the county. So there is a great untapped resource there. I think the services need to be better at the way that people are exited from the services and tracked thereafter, because they have skills that are transferable, that can be brought to bear in a number of different areas. But we, as a community, need to make more strides to welcome them into employment opportunities, to understand the skills that they've got, and find ways of making those connections. If you were to ask me, what's the next sort of set of skills that we really need in this sector, it's all around data, it's all around computer science, it's all around software development, systems engineering. And those opportunities aren't just limited to defence, they might be in agri-tech, they might be in energy and the engineering around it. So veterans don't just have to come into the defence sector. They can be applied anywhere, I think, in the county. And there's a lot of them who want to stay and live and work in Lincolnshire.
Thanks, Chris. And I think just one example of a district council trying to do something around this is in a couple of weeks I'm down in Grantham talking to at the barracks, talking to the business community down there around the fact that they've gained their gold award from the MOD for employee recognition scheme, which is fantastic, but also reaching out then to try and explain the capabilities that exist in the sector and how that can be matched out into other areas. So the districts are also really quite key to this in terms of selling that capability. Thank you.
Thank you for that panel. Just picking up a point that Chris made, I went to the Standing with Giants exhibition at the IBCC last night, tremendous exhibition, and I talked to, I think, 3 ex-Royal Navy people, all of whom have moved to Lincolnshire. So it's not just the RAF where people retire, it's the other services as well. But you know, we've had another great insight into where Lincolnshire's leading the way, and it's not just the defence sector businesses, it's the defence sector itself. The RAF bases continue to grow, Cranwell continues to grow and have growth plans. So it's another area of great growth for the county. So thank you for all you've contributed this morning.